Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter. And today we will be talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars and why I believe, even if they do suffer the blow of losing either defense coordinator Anthony Campanile or offense coordinator Grant Udinski, they should not panic. Now, to me, obviously, I'm not saying that to minimize what it would mean to lose either one of those guys. I've said it before. I'll say it again and again. Losing either one of them would be significant. I mean, Grant Udinski does a ton for the Jaguars in their quarterback room, in their preparation, game planning. He does so many things for the Jaguars that aren't as easy to see as, him calling plays into a headset or a walkie-talkie, or him holding a play sheet. So, yeah, it does impact his value that Liam Coen is the play caller and not him. That can't be ignored. But it also can't be ignored that he's a key and critical piece to what the Jaguars do. I mean, you look at, there's been several Minnesota Vikings beat reporters this year who have said that openly a part of the weekly prep that had been so key for the Vikings the last year or so, but especially under Sam Darnold, were no longer there with Grant Udinski gone. And I think that's just one of the many things that shows, the quality of a coach he is and the value that he brings to his staff. I mean, I talked to player after player, and Nick Mullins is a great example. He was with Udinski in Minnesota, with Udinski in Jacksonville. And he said to me, it's just the detail that he has and the work ethic. He is going to bring value to his staff. There's no debating that. And in camp, I mean, what even needs to be said? They were a top 10 defense in both EPA per play and success rate after being, I believe, 29th or 30th in EPA per play the year before and like 24th in success rate. They were terrible on defense under Ryan Nielsen and Doug Peterson. And it completely switched and flipped under Anthony Campanile, even though what moves did they really make? They added Jordan Lewis and Eric Murray. Otherwise, defensively, I mean, they added Dennis Gardeck, I suppose. The Jaguars didn't really make that many moves to change the defensive roster. You still have the same starting linebackers. Dewey still started. Buster still played a lot. Josh and Trayvon, obviously. And I think that there's no way that you can look at the job that he did with the Jaguars last year and think it wasn't one of the best coaching jobs in football. I think that ultimately losing camp would be more devastating than losing Udinski. I don't think there's any debating that. But I also think if you're the Jaguars and if you're invested in the Jaguars, and if you are somebody who thinks their future success, at least in 2026, depends on what happens with Grant Udinski and Anthony Campanile in the coaching carousel, then I don't think it would be time to hit the panic button if either one of those guys got hired. If both get hired, and that'd be interesting. Say the Cleveland Browns hire Udinski and the Arizona hires Camp. That'd be fascinating. Sean McVay, he's had 4 offensive coordinators, 4 defensive coordinators. No guy's ever lasted more than 3 years in either role. And one of those guys that lasted 3 years was Wade Phillips. Another guy is Mike LaFleur, who, very well could be the Raiders or Raiders or Cardinals' next head coach. Sean McVay has never had to replace a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator at the same time. He's had to go many seasons where he's had to replace one of them, but never at the same time. And having to find 2 new coordinators just after your first year of building and after going 13-4, that'd be a major hurdle, major roadblock, major obstacle, whatever you want to call it. There's no sugarcoating that. That is the reality of the situation that would be facing the Jaguars. But I also think at the same time, the reality of the situation is that the Jaguars should not panic if Liam Coen has to overhaul his staff that way. I sincerely don't think so. I think that you can look to the job that Liam Coen did building his staff last year, and you can rest assured that he would be able to put the Jaguars in a position where they can survive. I mean, let's talk about the Udinski hire. Udinski was always going to be a popular name this offseason. Well, maybe if he stayed in Minnesota and J.J. McCarthy still had the year he had, but nonetheless, when the Jaguars hired Udinski, he had just, done a whole nationwide tour as an offensive coordinator candidate. Interviewed with a ton of teams. I believe he interviewed the Houston Texans. I believe he interviewed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Virtually, it seemed like anybody who needed an offensive coordinator was talking to Udinski. And then the Jaguars needed to find somebody who wasn't going to be a play caller, who would be willing to be in that non-play caller role as offensive coordinator. And Udinski was the perfect fit. And it was a leap for Liam Coen. He was 29 years old. He wasn't even a sole positions coach. I believe he was assistant quarterback coach. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I don't believe I am. But Coen saw in him everything that he needed to see. And he nailed that hire. It was a home run, A+. Grant Udinski had a fantastic season with the Jaguars as offensive coordinator. I know. He didn't call plays. I know all that. However, he didn't need to have success. You can see how detailed the offense was week in and week out. How prepared they seemed to be. How, frankly, when they weren't getting in their own ways with self-inflicted mistakes such as flags and turnovers, this offense was humming, especially the second half of the year. And it was a great hire by Liam Coen because you had to project that. There was no evidence that he would be good in that role 100% factual. He had to project it, he had to feel it, and he was right. Same goes with Camp. Run game coordinator and linebackers coach in Green Bay, longtime linebackers coach, position coach, whatnot. Had never called the plays for an NFL defense. Had done it in college, obviously, but it's different calling plays for Boston College on a Saturday and calling plays in an NFL game on a Sunday. That's just the reality of it. And that was a risky hire. First-year coordinator, nobody knew what to expect. Obviously, like I told you guys when he got hired, there were a lot of positive things I was hearing about Camp, how players felt about him, the kind of influences that he had been around. And I think Camp proved that he was everything the Jaguars were hoping for. I also think Camp proved, as well as Udinski proved, that when Coen has to make these decisions, when Coen has to make these hires, that he is prepared and able to do so. So, no, I don't think the Jaguars should panic if they lose Camp. I don't think they should panic if they lose Udinski. I don't even think they should panic if they lose both, and that is saying a lot. Because both guys bring a lot to the table. Both guys are highly valued inside the Miller Electric Center. But Liam Coen has shown that he can handle the difficult nature of finding coordinators. He unearthed two guys last year. Neither one of these guys was a coordinator a year ago, and now half of the NFL head coaching vacancies were interested in them. 5 of the 10 jobs interviewed one of these two guys. I think it says everything about the job Coen did. I think it says everything about the job the Jaguars did, the standard the Jaguars built. And I also think it says everything, frankly, about the quality of coaching that Coen does when he is finding candidates. That's such a big part of being a head coach. It's one of the big reasons why Doug Peterson ultimately, kind of failed his staffing decisions. So that's why I tell you, Jaguars fans, do not worry if they lose Camp and Udinski. because they still have Liam Coen.